Armand here with your forecast for the week of October 1st of 2023. It's the first week in October. If you happen to be watching this on Saturday morning, the 30th of September, join me at 11:30 a.m. for the live October forecast. What a forecast. This is a month that has a lot of stuff going on. The celestial vacation that we've been on, not that we were on vacation, but the sky was kind of on vacation, is definitely over, and October is a very, very busy month, and we'll be feeling it all the way through. Well, we'll be feeling it soon enough anyway. So join me for that, or watch later on. It's really the same thing, I guess. But you can ask questions and, sort of shape the narrative a little bit if you happen to be around on 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on September 30th. Okay, October is a big deal. October is a big deal. And what that means, by the way, we've had big deals. I mean, August and September were big deals. We've had big deals. Things happen in our lives. But in the skies, when we get a lot of activity, new things show up on our plate. A lot of what we've been dealing with in the last couple of months, if you think about it, has been sort of walking out what has happened before. We've been coming to an agreement on this. We've been fighting about that and so on. But it's not old. It's not new stuff. It's old stuff that we're dealing with. But we're going to get new stuff in October. And that's what makes things a little bit more, and we'll still be dealing with the old stuff. And that's what makes things a little bit more tense. So this week is dominated by Mercury. Mercury is the planet this week. The moon will be in Gemini for a good part of the week too, adding to that mercurial flavor. Now, Mercury, having cleared his retrograde, or clearing his retrograde, moving through Taurus at moving through Virgo at what a clip. And he is going to make some big aspects this week. The first thing he does on the 2nd is to oppose Neptune. And right here, this is the important part. This is the important part of the forecast. Now, this happens on Monday, technically speaking. It colors all day Sunday, Monday, and I would say that Gemini moon, which sort of slides this forward into Tuesday, really gives this Mercury-Neptune opposition a little bit more lifespan than it otherwise would. After all, the moon is going to not only be in Mercury's sign of Gemini, it's also going to be squaring the two planets. So we have a very slippery beginning to the week. Now, Mercury-Neptune aspects, when they make a hard aspect, a conjunction, a square, an opposition, we're looking at something that is roughly akin to Mercury retrograde on steroids. Mercury retrograde raised to a power. Not a good time for practical decisions. Not a good time whatsoever. This is an opposition, which means that we're most likely to play this out with other people. This is where we're likely to have communication with others, and where the facts just might be slippery. Some people would be outright deceptive. I'll tell you the truth. Some people are just going to lie. And Mercury-Neptune is pretty okay with that. Especially, Mercury is in the precise sign of Virgo, which sort of slows things down a little bit. But Neptune in Pisces, we're talking about multiplying the possibilities. So there could be outright deception. Sometimes, though, you're just telling a story and the facts aren't quite right, but the story is better than the facts and you stick with that. Or it may be that, let's say, for example, if there's a sales pitch going on. I mean a sales pitch in the literal sense, but I also mean it in, in a more metaphorical sense. If there's a sales pitch going on, it's quite possible that we will, just kind of pick up on the fact that the other person is kind of intrigued, and maybe we can draw them in if we just kind of, put a little bit more bait on the hook than we really need. Gild the lily, as they say in the old days. So it's not a good time for practicals. I happen to have a fairly important meeting on Monday morning, about an hour before Mercury opposes Neptune. Could have consulted an astrologer about that, but I won't make any decisions until afterwards. That's the way that works. That's the way you deal with that energy. You're kind of forced into having to make that kind of, you have to be there for this. We're not being forced into it, actually. Just sort of slid in there. But you are in this position where you're going to have a meeting where there are negotiations going on. You just don't make any final decision. You just let it kind of play out as something that you will take the information and think about it and see what happens later. Now, you think that this is all just bad news about this Mercury-Neptune opposition? It is not. This is a great time for creativity, creative writing, and play. It's a great time to improvise. And, well, Mercury's in Virgo, so you can sort of try to improvise. It's a good time for meditation. I say that a lot because it is. It's a good time for meditation. Mercury, Neptune, take a meandering walk or a meandering drive, although potentially you can get a little bit lost. Serendipity rules when Mercury is opposite Neptune, so just let things happen and see where it goes. We're in mutable signs. It's not a good time to try to get anything done practically. It is a very good time to just see what happens and go with it. We still have a little bit of the full moon energy in the skies and down here, I guess. We have a little bit of the full moon energy. And the moon is going to be in Taurus. Really, it could be a really nice Monday. It's a Monday. That's another thing. It's a Monday. But it could be a really nice Monday. Then, on Tuesday, Mercury at the very end of Virgo trines Pluto in Capricorn. Now we get a sort of earthy vibe to the whole thing. We dry out, we sober up after our little drunken revelry of Mercury opposite Neptune, and we say, wow, this is happening in earth signs. Lots of possibilities that we were tossing around yesterday. What is practical? What is real? What can we actually make happen? Now we go back to the negotiations. We go back to the bargaining table. We go back to the fact list and see which one of those facts are really facts and which ones are not. That's a good job for Tuesday, Wednesday type of thing. Then Wednesday, Mercury leaves Virgo and heads into Libra. And that casts particularly good vibe for, I'll call it good vibe, it casts a very good vibe for taking the other person's perspective. Now you can really get negotiations underway. Now you can take this side of the scale and that side of the scale, see how they balance out, get a really good, solid impression of what is real as opposed to the fantasy of Monday, as opposed to the hard practicality of Tuesday. Now we can sort of take those things and bargain them out and see where they go. That's where this week really takes us, and that's the end of the week as well. It's almost, after we get over that initial charge of energy at the beginning of the week, it's almost something like business as usual as we work through the end of the week. Well, yeah. I guess that's true. We eventually have the last quarter moon in Cancer, little bit of tension, but the thing that gets you really, the thing that really you have to be aware of on the weekend is that Mars comes into a square with Pluto. Now that really happens, technically speaking, that's next week's forecast, and we can almost not worry about it, but be aware that Pluto is stationing on the 10th, and we have Mars square Pluto on Sunday, the 8th. So when we get into the neighborhood of Friday, Saturday, we start to feel some of the tensions brewing under the surface. And for some folks, this is going to pop a little bit early. All right. be sure to catch the October forecast. This week is something, we get a little bit of a bye this week, and then next week, things are really going to heat up. We'll talk about that soon.